Hey, welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour without Joe Yardley. I had to leave her behind because I'm in the physical world. I'm in San Francisco, and I'm walking around and it's raining. Oh, crap. It's like people on the streets working. Physical work. Physical labor. They're fixing the streets. I'm approaching a somewhat typical building, for San Francisco anyway, typical building. Red brick building with a plaque in front that has a eye and a hand logo on it. Oh my God! Did I bring my prayer rug? Did I bring it? Okay, I'm ringing the doorbell. Hello?
Hey.
This is Draxter.
Oh.
Thank you. Okay, I'm in. Hello there and welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley. And it is Joe Yardley in the studio. I lied in the station ID. I couldn't do this show without you, Joe. How are you?
Quite right. Yes, I'm fine. Thank you very much. Just happy to make sure that you don't mess up again, as usual.
Yes. As you know, Joe, and we all heard in the station ID, I was at Linden Lab in San Francisco this past week for the first time. I walked the hell out halls, and it was quite exciting.
I can imagine. I'm rather jealous.
I was there for all hands on deck meeting, which is they have that I think once a month. They present the progress they make with various projects, and it's simulcast to all satellite offices and folks who work from home. All we talked about was basically about you all the time.
Well, that's the way it should be.
Somebody said, in Block's world, we have this going on. And then somebody raised their hand and said, but what would Joe do with it?
They should have a T-shirt there. What should Joe do?
Yes. And then,
or a little sign on the wall in Ebba's office, big sign. Every time he considers something, he looks at the sign and says, right, what would Joe do?
And Danger Linden had sort of the projections for quarter 2, 2015. Get this going with Second Life, make this going with the new virtual world, make this going with Joe. Joe has to approve of this. If it doesn't work, we have to go back to the drawing board.
That would fix Second Life within 24 hours if they made me approve everything they did.
And they do have a secret product name that is just used internally for the new generation virtual world. Of course, you guessed it. It's called Yardley Land.
Yeah, well, as it should be.
It was really awesome, and I met a lot of Lindens that I had interacted with in the past. Some people I've seen for the first time in physical reality. Okay, so you are a person that I know, and I know you from the Facebook photo. That's how I recognize you. Because otherwise, there's no way of me recognizing you. Who are you?
I'm Alexa Linden.
And you usually work out of from the East Coast.
No, I'm actually in the Seattle office.
Oh, in the Seattle office.
I just
right.
happened to be down here this week.
Did you just come for me?
I did. I knew you were coming, so I had to come down here and meet you.
That was Alexa Linden, indeed, and she hunts every nasty bug on the grid until it dies a nasty death. She's usually in the Seattle office. And who are you, please, if I may ask?
So I'm the executive support to Ebbe and our CFO.
Yeah, you put everything together, like traveling and stuff.
Yeah, I kind of run the show from an administrative perspective here.
That is super important.
Yeah, so
especially with the tech geeks.
We feed our engineers. We take care of our engineers. That's basically my primary role, and make this a fun place to be for people when they walk in the door.
So in other words, you are running kind of an elementary school, not because of the intellectual capacity, but maybe like, now it's time to eat, that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Otherwise they wouldn't.
Otherwise they'd forget.
Right.
Yeah. So
it's time to go home.
We don't
now.
want anyone crying. We don't want anyone cranky.
Right.
We don't want anyone bored. So that's my job.
That is arguably one of the most important jobs in an organization.
I'm the house mom. Some people actually call me mom around here.
You have that vibe. I immediately want to stay with you for the rest of the day.
I don't know if that's a compliment.
It is. For me, it is. Yep, and that was Michelle, who makes sure that Abby does not tweet too much and gets back to, the drawing board for Yardley Land.
Right, so she's the one that keeps telling him to stop drinking virtual schnapps in Berlin and get on with work.
Who are you?
Ziola.
Do you think for an April Fool's I should do an episode where I actually live in a basement and I play with all the cliches?
It'd be the Drax on Drax Files.
That was your idea. You had that idea.
Drax on Drax Files. I don't know if we would have to be in the basement, though.
Well, if we do it, then we have to play with cliches. Then we have kind of my mom comes in and serves me dinner or something, or some chips.
It has to be dark.
Yeah.
The walls should be covered with cigarette smoke.
Exactly.
Film
yeah, and some posters from 80s movies.
I don't know, everybody saw you all skating around and shopping. I think they know you leave the house.
This was someone I met for the first time also, a person who I interact with almost on a daily basis, Ziola Linden. And Ziola Linden, credit where credit is due. She does a lot to combat SL stereotypes in the media. She runs the official Twitter feed, as far as I know. Maybe some others do, they share the job, but she runs it most of the time. She runs the Facebook page. She curates the picture of the day. She does the blog. She handpicks awesome visuals to counter those nasty old pics from 2006. So Ziola is really in there.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, because, they need her, especially this week.
Crazy journalism. Journalism has struck again. Anyway, let's do some housekeeping notes real quick. We have much more audio from my visit, including some things about SL 2.0. And Monty Linden is going to explain what CDN stands for in the context of the SL grid loading much faster.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, you will understand it, Joe. I told him to really dumb it down quite a bit for me.
I'm probably a lot dumber than you even think.
Why did stupidity become en vogue? I mean, that's kind of sad, though.
I mean, call me arrogant, but I was born with it.
You can always get in touch with us if you're intelligent. You can figure that out yourself. There's an email, there's a Skype name, there's an avatar. You can support the show by becoming a sponsor, visiting the sponsors. It's $100 Linden per month for a voluntary subscription. That's $25 Linden per show. You can subscribe to the show on Stitcher or iTunes. Next week, we have Leap Motions to give away.
Yeah.
Please leave a comment on the draxfiles.com page. This is how it works. Leave a comment on the draxfiles.com page and tell us what you would ask David Holtz, the co-founder of Leap. He will come back on the show. You will enter the drawing to win one of these. What would you ask David Holtz? And the people who comment, they will enter the drawing. And we will, of course, ask all these questions when he comes back on again. Moving on to the real news. This is just in. Philip Rosedale was on GigaOM designing virtual worlds. A 30-minute talk with a GigaOM writer in San Francisco a couple days ago. Inara Pei blogged about it, and she has a video embedded in that blog that I haven't watched yet. But Philip essentially says that we don't understand virtual worlds. If he doesn't understand it, well, I mean, what are we to understand?
Well, I do think that quite a lot of people involved in virtual reality don't quite understand what it is yet. I mean, we've had it in Second Life for a long time, that you had this strong feeling that the people at Linden Lab didn't quite know why we used it or what we were doing with it and what we wanted with it.
Incidentally, the reason why I actually was invited to speak at the All Hands on lunch to maybe remind the staff what can be done and what people are actually doing.
Of course, there are a lot of people at Linden Lab who work only on a certain part of Second Life. They only see the little technical bit, or they only see the little social bit.
I want to say that Philip Rosedale probably also means the general public, that the confusion of what to do with virtual worlds is out there in the general public. I mean, we still get that. We talk about it all the time. The eye rolling, the blank stares, even with people who are arguably technology savvy, it's still a concept that kind of combines a lot of levels and subtext that is very esoteric for people.
That's also why I'm still not quite sure if virtuality is not for everyone. You sometimes hear people saying, perhaps virtuality is just not for me. And that always makes me think, there's this little voice in the back of my head that says, it's only because you haven't figured it out yet. I think I'm convinced that there's something for everyone in Second Life, and definitely in virtuality, but even in Second Life, there's something that if you find it, you think, now I get it.
Bad journalism. Let's move on quickly. There was an incredibly bad article.
It was hysterically bad.
Hysterically bad on a website called moviepilot.com. And I wasn't aware of this at first. Apparently, you can sign up on moviepilot.com and then you can post pretty much whatever you like. So this guy wrote something incredibly bad and peppered it with photos from 2006, 2007.
This amateur who just plucked a few things out of midair and stuffed them onto a page and got 100,000 people to read it. It's amazing.
Right, 100,000 people, and there's a view count on the page. It deals with unicorn sex and furries, and obviously all the cliches packed into one, peppered with really bad screenshots.
Even flying penises. And I've been in Second Life.
Oh, he tracked down that video. That's right, from Anshi Chung in 2006, when there was a press conference with CNET. And flying penises came, and that's that persistent cliche about Second Life.
I haven't seen those or heard of them happening since I joined Second Life.
Anshi Chung was there talking with a CNET journalist, and then these penises came and they flew and they dropped them.
It still pops up in discussions and on Reddit when you're talking about Second Life.
It is sad. It is like when I go home to my town and the guy who I haven't seen it from 35 years says to me, "Hey, remember when we were drunk and threw up in the corner?"
It's worse. It's like when you say, "I'm from Germany," and I say, "Ooh, how's that First World War going on? How's the Kaiser? Is the Kaiser all right these days?"
Okay, well, anyway, Inarape, blogger Inarape, signed up to moviepilot.com and wrote a rebuttal, and it's really great. And was also great, this rebuttal is great, but also what was actually cool that I thought is that a lot of Second Lifers commented on this article as well. Tons of comments, really, really great explanations what people do positively in Second Life. The community is apparently really split. Some people say we should ignore that garbage because it's clickbait, and if we engage, we give it just more sunlight. We should ignore it. My personal opinion is no. We have the duty to correct the record. That's my personal opinion. We need to go out and set the record straight when it's public like that. When it's just a troll who's doing something crazy, that's different. But this is a website that gets 200,000 hits. We need to voice our opinion and push back against something that is so incredibly inaccurate.
Exactly. If only 4 people read it, it's not worth giving it the attention it gets. But if loads of people read it, I think it is perhaps even our duty to at least put another opinion on that page to make sure that this isn't right. And for God's sake, he used a picture from IMVU, and it's still there. He hasn't even changed that. That's a mistake. Whether you agree with him or not, that Second Life is a place for perverts doesn't matter. He made a big, huge, massive mistake in this article, and he hasn't changed it. What's going on here? I mean, I literally spent one afternoon in journalism school.
Well, let's be clear again. There is no editorial oversight. So in that sense, it is not journalism. It's just a website you can register and you can pretty much publish whatever you want. So this is even less of a quality control mechanism than your third grade newsletter. I mean, let's be frank about this. But given the nature of the internet, it gets an audience, and also it gets an audience through, for example, the Google News feed. So a lot of stuff that you do or other bloggers do, they don't get into the Google News feed. And that's really how skewed this all is. So I have subscribed to Google Alerts for Second Life. So I get we get these alerts from established tech websites, from established media. And then this shows up in my Google News feed. So I actually want to do some research. How does this stuff end up there? Because this is a website that has absolutely no track record of any type of journalistic in ethics or in editorial structure.
If it shows up in your and my Google search, it will also show up in the next journalist's Google search who wants to write something about Second Life. And he may actually be someone of some importance who also knows how to write. And if he read that article during his research and had not noticed all our comments, there's a risk that he's going to write the same sort of nonsense.
And that's why I'm so glad also that, of course, then Inara's rebuttal also showed up in the Google News feed of Second Life. And that's, to me, brilliant. That's fight fire with fire. we got to move on. We don't have time. Magic Leap is the company to watch out. We know that there's more info and speculation about what it is on a Gizmodo article. I'm not going to summarize this article. Go read it for yourself. This is this mysterious company that Google has pumped in over $500 million into it. They have elephants and seahorses floating around in the midst of our reality in their demo video. So it's augmented reality, what we've seen from the demo screenshots and the videos. A lot of claims from within that company is that they're doing something completely revolutionary, but there is not much detail. Now, there's patent and trademark filings that are being examined and dissected by a writer from Gizmodo named Sean Hollister. What is interesting to me, apparently in the headset that they're making, there are cameras inside that watch your eyes and figure out where your eyes are looking at. And so they can create the virtual objects in your reality view just perfectly situated where they would be, where your eyes would focus. Also, the light that would bounce, the real light that would bounce off of the virtual objects is accurate. What we're really talking about here is light bouncing off of surfaces being accurately calculated and then presented in the virtual objects that are inside your real reality. So when you look at objects from different angles, obviously the light changes, the reflections change, and with cameras inside of the device to track where your eyes are focusing on. Another thing that I want to mention real quick, which is very interesting, there's a trademark filing that the guy writes about on Gizmodo, and it suggests that they want to offer a platform to contribute and create virtual worlds. So Linden Lab, I hope you're listening. You know, the competition is really heating up here.
I think everyone's going in this direction. We've got Facebook, we've got Yahoo is probably working on something even more secret.
Yahoo Land. Almost sounds like Yardley Land.
But, you know, didn't they buy...
Cloud Party.
Cloud Party and all those people that worked on it. Who knows what they've been doing since then? Also
want to add that Magic Leap, these guys also have a data glove. So it's really like Ready Player One, you know. In Ready Player One, the novel, the company Gregarious Simulation Systems, they're successful with their virtual world because that's in the book. That's a big part of this book. The virtual world that they're creating, the Oasis, is successful because simultaneously with the virtual platform, with the software, they're releasing the hardware. They're releasing the visor and the data glove. So I think this is really essential to have it all from... just like a good Apple computer where everything comes out of one big dictatorship.
Who saves the hardware saves the world.
Let's move on to Monty Linden. Monty Linden is a developer in the core platform team at Linden Lab. They work with servers and real physical hardware. And we're talking about real physical hardware a lot today. He has been on the show before. He worked on the HTTP project. And not only does he sound a little bit like Barry White, actually talking to him about forming a band, he also has a skill to explain complex technical issues in plain language so we can all benefit from it. You probably read in our page excellent posts on CDN and how Linden Lab is utilizing that technology. But here is Monty, straight from the source, explaining what the heck is going on.
The goal of using a content delivery network, or just a CDN, is to make it seem or the network perform as if users were very close to the websites, web services that they were actually trying to use. So much software gets written in the California area, and the servers happen to be nearby, so everyone develops in a very friendly and well-performing experience. But when you go to the UK, you go to Africa, South America, East Coast of the United States, for example, you find that those wonderful feature-rich sites that are developed perform rather slowly as they start having to load more JavaScript, more images, more data behind the scenes. And all of this is due just to the physical constraints of having to move that much data around. So the CDN proposition is that you will move the content to as many geographical locations as you can, or at least ones that are interesting. So it's a simple, well, we say simple, it's a simple, in theory, replication of the data. Put it on the East Coast of the United States, put it at a few sites in South America, Europe, UK, Africa when possible, Asia as well. And by keeping these in sync and doing a few tricks with DNS and routing services, People see the same website, get the same services, but they get it from someplace close. And that greatly improves the experience.
I'm assuming now you're getting to the difference between a website, even a dynamic website, and a very complex simulation of a 3D space.
There are several differences. One is, when you use a browser, you typically go to a page, there's a great deal of activity for a very short time, and you have a page. It starts running, and it's available in a very brief amount of time. There really isn't that much to load. You go to a region in Second Life, we will load tens of thousands of entities, and that can take a great deal of time. And so you'll find it working and having to do quite a bit more loading than what a simple web page or even a complicated web page. In addition to that, I believe, my opinion is that it's more noticeable. You can have missing content or some images out of place or maybe some JavaScript that you're not even going to run, not appear in a web page, and you won't care. Your favorite little image in Second Life, your favorite mesh, if that does not appear, we hear about it. You will come to us, and so the reliability and robustness of that region load is very important to people. It must be correct.
Is this a third-party service, or are you building up this content delivery network? That's what I never understood.
A content delivery network, CDNs are actually a term of business. It is a service like web services, VPN, ISP, and commercial businesses started it up. Akamai, for example, is one very famous one. CloudFront Run is another one.
And now, when you talk about Second Life, how do you then prioritize? Do you prioritize what should be duplicated in terms of Second Life content by looking at how often are how popular are certain sims?
That would be a push technology. We decide what's important and move it out there. We let the users decide. So they just come in and ask for what they want, and we let them pull it out to the CDNs. The entire grid could actually be replicated out there, and it very nearly is at this point. And the effect is that they replicate the live pieces. There is a huge collection of material that, in a way, isn't alive. It's sitting in people's inventories. It's never resed. It doesn't exist in any simulator state, and that does not go out there. But what people use stays live, and if they keep using it day after day, it remains hot, is how we phrase it, and it stays at the CDN. I'll give you a little technical rundown. When you log into a region, one of the first things that happen is a scene description starts loading from the server into the viewer. Now, this is our server, and it's always our server. It's where the simulation is happening. And we begin loading trees and grass and how the terrain looks, the meshes that have been res on the region, textures, and primitives. And we start pushing descriptions of these down to the viewer. These also contain additional descriptions. More mesh objects are embedded in them, more textures are embedded in them. And that is now the duty of the viewer itself to go and request. And what has changed is that instead of requesting it from our simulation hosts, they're now going to the CDN. So they're asking the CDN directly, please give me this texture. Please give me this mesh. And that's how we know it becomes hot. That's how we get it loaded into CDN, and that's how we make it available as close as possible to the people requesting it. We don't actually know which ones are out there. We just know that the people who are asking them are getting them.
It is the popularity that demands what the content delivery network then delivers.
Correct. The people demand it, the people get it.
My sort of avant-garde cinema or modern contemporary composer workshop gets probably a lot less requests than, let's say, any number of bikini beachfronts.
The Liggity fans will get their day someday.
Last time we spoke was about the HTTP project. How does this relate to your HTTP work? How does it interface? What's the ideal scenario that all these moving parts gel together?
It was actually independent, and the CDN work was mostly orchestrated by the systems engineering group, people who manage the big services behind the scenes, the data centers, and the operational aspects of Second Life. And it was just coincidence that they came together at the same time. Good and bad, we had two large networking pieces that were made available right at the same time. And they are complementary. They don't conflict, really. They are complementary in that the services that we have stood up over time are rate limited. We're sharing simulation and asset management and everything else on our simulation hosts. And we needed or wanted to move that away for quite a long time. So the pipelining was a way of using that more effectively, but is still consuming that resource. CDN allows us to move it completely away. It moves off into another space entirely. And by simply pointing the pipelining away to the CDN, it simply works. As long as you speak a valid HTTP protocol, you keep within specifications, and be a little conservative. Be prepared for failures. It's very robust and very effective.
Then again, and I think we touched upon this last time, now the limitation also is the distance of the simulated content to piping it down to where the end users, but a service such as Second Life and what Linden Lab is now building next is always dependent on the pipes and whoever owns the pipes. And then we're talking a little bit perhaps about net neutrality in this country.
We are. The network carriers and the other services are black boxes from our point of view as well. We hire them. We know that they can provide a useful service to us, but we do seek a uniformity of service, and that is important. And if the carriers start doing terrible things to the networks, that will impact Second Life users, game players, media, people interested in streaming media. It very much is relevant to the experience.
It seems to me that people who are normally a little bit maybe apathetic actually have spoken out for net neutrality and keeping it and pushing back. Actually, numbers that kind of surprise me, kind of gives me hope a little bit.
It gives me some too. And this really is a technical and public services issue. And there really is a common area. This is where the commons need to be protected and preserved and built up. This is a new technical area. We haven't introduced a new utility since electricity, really, and telephone. This is another opportunity to do it well, do it right, and do something for the common good.
I mean, the argument from the political sphere is always that we need to have this highway with two different speeds and pricing in order to get innovation going. So I mean, can you debunk this argument? That's not really floating around in the tech industry. It looks to me the tech industry is pretty much united, right? I mean, I get emails from Google and stuff like that. Please speak out, call the FCC. Or is there anybody, to your knowledge, in the tech business that is kind of against net neutrality?
Well, what they are concerned with is the growth curve is changed for them. And that means that margins are going to get pushed and squeezed in the future. And it's a defensive move. For the most part, there are certain public factors that are actually interesting. For example, in the cell phone services, there is ability to reserve capacity for emergency services in times of need. That is an absolute valid case of having two classes of a service for a public good. Same thing would apply to the network. There would be times and cases where that would be needed, but it's not necessary for commerce. It's not necessary for the build out of the network. It's not necessary to finance the future. I can't see a valid argument.
It's very interesting that you bring this up. My father worked in telecommunications for the Bavarian government. His thing that we always get into discussions, mutually respectful discussion, where he says, people shouldn't be watching high-definition television over a mobile phone. That's ridiculous. That's clogging up the network. Well, what you say to my dad? Or, stream down through OnLive, SL Go through my, Android tablet on the road.
Well, he would be truly appalled at the capacity that's used for Twitter. You send a 140-line message that could have been handled by telegraphy in the past. It's okay to scale up a little bit over time. So
we have the capacity. I mean, the pipes are big enough to satisfy everything.
They really are. Things have been scaling up fairly well as media's come along. I mean, in the very early days in the 90s, trying to get streaming media across the network, what a challenge that was. It was an absolute disaster. And the technology build-out since then has just blossomed. It is just, you don't have to consider the constraints anymore, or the organizational problems, or just reserving the bandwidth pipe on the network as you want to do it, which we had to do in the old days.
But it could be better in the U.S. I mean, I don't want to. But I say this all the time. I go to Europe in the summer. I mean, they have fiber optics. Some of these European cities, seems to me, quite advanced. And here are places in the U.S. I'm 2 hours south of San Francisco. We have these little wires hanging on these wooden poles that are 500 years old.
I mean, there are unique challenges in the United States. It's a low-density country, truly. There are large areas to cover and rebuild. I don't have a good answer for that. When I'm president, I will fix all these problems.
Get off this HTTP project. There's 2016 to think about for you. Broadband for the whole country is your number one issue. That's the platform.
My personal take on it is every city grants a monopoly practically to the operators, cable operators. And that is such a disincentive to provide a better service. And you see it now in this effect. And until that changes, or it's managed as utility, we're not going to get that progress. I've often wondered what it would be like if municipalities operated the glass and businesses leased out capacity on it. How would that combination work? I don't know for certain, but I think the division would be interesting.
Yes. One tiny question. The Second Life resident, what will they see in the future coming from you guys in terms of how their experience will be even better than it is now?
That's actually a good question.
For Christmas. Let's make it Easter. It's fine.
Well, we do have some teething problems. I'll be honest. There are some users experiencing some difficulty. We are going to sort those out, and we are going to make this better. The interesting problem is that we were actually achieving results that are at theoretical capacity of the services. For the non-CDN case, we were running some tests out of the UK, and people are actually getting the performance. Put it this way, if I were to take those users and put them in our data center in Phoenix and let them plug into the rack where their simulation host was running, the numbers would not be better. That's how good it is.
Whoa.
That's due to pipelining and keeping data on the wire. So with that happening, you actually have to work to make it better. CDN is one of them. And we went to first just extract the maximum we can get out of CDN. And that will give us a great deal of data movement. Then it's improved simulation and keep working. We'll refine. But this really has been a milestone for Second Life. We just have to give it to everybody, make sure everyone is getting the benefit of it. And it is happening now. And everybody should feel that. Everyone should be feeling that. Just one contextual add-on, where are the data centers right now? The last time I heard there were like 3-4 different centers you have. We operate out of Phoenix. That's where we keep all of our servers and where all the big data is stored. The CDN has operations in most continents, running a few centers in Europe, in the UK, in Asia, let's see, Japan, subcontinent, Australia, and South America. Was Linden Lab always only had a data center in Phoenix? The original data centers were actually located in San Francisco. It actually grew out. It was in Dallas, in Phoenix, and in the D.C. area, Washington, D.C. area. Washington, D.C. closed quite a while ago, and we're in Phoenix now. Phoenix, where the weather is so nice. That's where the servers like it. 115 in summer is wonderful for servers, yes. That was Monty, and, let's do this. If folks have specific questions for specific Lindens, I just thought of this. I'd like listeners to post in the comment section on the blog some of these questions, and then we can address them and get those Lindens on the show. Who's your favorite Linden? What is the question you want to ask him? Post it on the blog. Also, quick note, today marks the end of almost a week of region restarts by Linden Lab. They issued a blog post just now. In the post, you read that failures of servers were traced back to overheating and subsequent failure, and it seems like they had to actually open some of these servers and maybe, put some compressed air in there.
Yeah, blow out the dust.
Blow out the dust. So, it's really a hands-on business. Read that blog post. We'll link to it.
Oh, I've done that with my computer. The things you find, it's disgusting. And of course, they haven't cleaned them in, 11 years.
Yeah. No, in 11 years they haven't done anything. That's right.
So imagine all the hairs from all those hippies. Yeah, and they've got a dog running around there as well. So
I want to throw in something interesting because I actually presented Second Life and a bit of virtual reality in general at the local Rotary Club last week.
to a whole bunch of old, rich, white men. It was interesting.
My favorite.
I know. I handed out your business card. But no, it was really nice. And they were really interested and they asked really great questions. And one of those questions was, how can you feel the immersion when you're just looking at the screen? So that was an interesting question, and I talked a lot about investing in community and your avatar. And once you have that emotional connection, the Oculus might be the cherry on the top, but it's certainly not necessary. You can have that immersive feeling because you are part of this community.
Well, it's mostly based on identifying yourself with your avatar, which is a really strange phenomena, but that's just the way it is. I mean, maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I'm embarrassed when my hair won't rest when I'm bald in Second Life.
Let's go back before we're running out of time, because I want to go back to my Linden Lab visit. I have another piece of audio that I'd like to play. Ebbe showed me around a little bit. I was in his office as well, trying out the DK2.
How many pictures of you did he have on his desk?
There's a picture of a dog, me in 2012, me on my res day. Did I tell you we were getting married? No. Okay. So anyway.
Your dreams, boy.
Have you been here before?
No, I haven't.
This office?
No, never.
Okay. Here's the Blocks World team in the middle.
Oh,
Pete
cool.
Marketing in the corner. You have people over there working on their next generation marketplace. Here we have business intelligence, and behind that finance, and behind that we have customer service. And next to me is Kelly and Kelly, who helps up legal, and Malcolm, who's CFO. Mm-hmm. And upstairs is all meeting rooms. Mm-hmm. There's no one that permanently offices up there. And then downstairs here we have engineering.
So Ebbe is looking down. We can see here down from sort of a cut through the second floor. These are engineering folks, and there's a really cool logo, the Second Life logo that says over 1 billion served.
All right, let's do
Ebbe has a really awesome office with a DK2. Ebbe, why don't you log me in? Click the login button. Ebbe's clicking the login button. It's alive. I'm taking the Oculus, and then it's Shift Control D, right? Yes. Okay, so I'm strapping it on. Oh, wow. This is an immediate, huge difference between the DK1 and DK2. I see a health and safety warning. Read and follow all warnings. Thankfully, I'm nearsighted, so I can't read that warning. I'm under water with being a mist.
Yeah, we can just hit.
Is this the arrow keys? Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. This is page up, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking around, tracking-wise. How did people, when you brought these other journalists in here, where did you take them, Ebbe?
We took them to Mont Saint-Michel, and it's cool because some people have actually been there and can sort of relate to it. We just show them the arrow keys and the page up and down. I mean, Mont Saint-Michel is kind of cool to fly over, so we give them some flying. But usually just have them just operate the arrow keys.
So I'm going to go to a different location in my favorites bar. What is this? Baja Norte, I suppose, from the OnLive commercial. Yeah, I mean, here, there's still a little of that latency that
You can see when you move across, when you pan and you scan, that it has a bit of a what we call judder. So, and this is because Second Life just doesn't have the rendering engine and the frame rate to ultimately be an ideal companion to the Oculus, which the next generation will solve for. But you have to get to 90 frames per second. 90 frames to really kind of get rid of all the shutter problems.
Yeah. But Oculus always says it has to be 60.
Well, the DK2 is 60, but then you go to the Crescent Bay, you're at 90.
Okay, we can log out.
It is what it is. But we already have it working with the next generation too.
Can you say this publicly? What other gadgets are you looking at with the next generation?
We do have with the next generation basic implementation. We made sure that the abstraction for input devices is done right, so that we can easily just keep adding devices. So it already works well, obviously with keyboard and mouse, but also with game pads and Leap Motion. And for Leap Motion, you then have to do all the user interface for all the gestures. Like, how do you come up with the right set of gestures that people can easily understand how to sort of navigate and manipulate things? and also user interface. If you're going to use gestures to interact with,
grab things
and rotate things and move things, and then also navigate, and also sometimes you want to choose some user interface. How do you push buttons? How do you select things? How do you sort of do those kinds of things? So we'll get into that. But I've just done basic, like a couple of gestures just for fly and stop kind of stuff with the leap motion. But it was just a quick proof of concept just to make sure that our abstraction layer for being able to put in lots of different input devices will be easy for us. Once we've solved the problem of making it, the tricky problem is oftentimes sort of user interface with each of these. For each of these different types of methods, you end up like you have a very different user interface for Oculus. You end up with a very different user interface for Leap Motion. So as you add these combinations, how the user interface changes to be optimum for the input and output devices you have, that's where it gets really complicated. The actual just getting the input and doing the output in itself is not that hard. Like we get Oculus support in like a week, and we get Leap Motion support in a couple of days. But then it's all the other work of actually making the user interface optimized for that particular use case, and then have that user interface make sense across a lot of different form factors like Windows, Mac, Oculus, mobile.
How often do you talk to the high fidelity guys often? Are they tight-lipped about what
I
they
haven't talked to Philip for a few months now. Well, actually, the last time I saw him was at Oculus Connect, whenever that was. And we just shared a little bit of learnings of what different technologies we've tried. I mean, they're doing a lot of work right now on face recognition. And so there's a bunch of different partners we're talking to provide some of the tech behind that. Like you have face shifts and some others. And there's interesting because some of it could be driven by camera reading your face. Some of it can actually also be done by listening to your voice, and you can drive your face based on what the voice comes.
That is cool.
So this is an interesting technology company we're talking to that they don't have it working in real time yet, but we'll see. Because they've figured out that if whatever sound comes out of your mouth, they know exactly what shape your mouth is taking to make that sound. And it actually works across all language. It doesn't matter if it's a Chinese person, French person, American person. If they make a particular sound, their mouth must move in a particular way.
And then from that, they can extrapolate what the eyes are doing once you...
Well, there are probably some, I don't know how much... I mean, you certainly, if I close my eyes and say a word and open my eyes saying the word, they can't tell if I have open or closed eyes. So if you want to have... It could still help with sort of mouth movement.
It has some impact to these parts of the face.
Well, so you got to get all the bone structures in the avatar correct so that they can sort of do a natural movement of a face.
So that was pretty fascinating. Getting clues to what the face is doing by analyzing your voice. I mean,
yeah, it's very, very exciting to hear all these snippets of clues and things like that. And you've actually seen the next Second Life.
I've seen the next Second Life, yeah. I might be killed if I talk about it.
Worth it. Go on. Risk it, go on.
Hold on, there's a knock at the door. No! Anyway, I did give a presentation later the day after they showcased a demo from the new Second Life. I was gonna say what was interesting to me, what I said earlier, is that I was brought in to show the people who make Second Life what Second Life can do. And I thought about this in the beginning. I thought, this is rather strange. Why don't they know it? But I totally get it now. They really had to have someone from the outside who works within the community. A lot of people work with the community at Linden Lab, but not all of them. Some are working on the new virtual world. They don't go in world. They don't have interactions with residents because they think they're too good to interact with the mere populace. It's just that they're too busy working on other things. Some people are working with Blocks World. They work on content that there's no overlap with Second Life necessarily. Then there's a lot of administrative folks, people who work in finance. They don't run around in world. You heard Michelle earlier. She's trying to get engineers to eat and sleep at regular hours. She can't be hanging out in Berlin all day. So I learned that the podcast and the video series is actually really a great tool for the Lindens as well to stay in the loop, what is happening and what is important for residents.
Even we don't quite understand all of Second Life.
Well, that's how it goes. Here's my next encounter with a Linden who I didn't know personally, but she introduced herself to me.
Hi, I'm Brooke Linden.
What are you doing here?
I am a producer at Linden Lab, and I work on a lot of our web properties, and have been working on the marketplace, Second Life Marketplace, for the past 4 years.
What is the most challenging thing about the marketplace?
Well, the most challenging thing about the marketplace is how much it supports. We actually support more sales than most online e-commerce sites because we're dealing with virtual goods and essentially microtransactions. So people can purchase, hundreds of things a day easily. So it's been, as some people have noticed, we've had some performance problems on Marketplace, and we've recently, over the past 6 months, done a series of changes on the back end that are really hidden from people, but they have made a huge difference in our performance, and we're really excited about that.
I have heard people criticize the marketplace every once in a while about the tagging into search, and I understand that search in general is really complicated. There's no Google is the only one. There's a reason why Google was able to kill all the competition. If it were that easy, there would be other working search engines.
There's a lot of complexity to search in our particular situation because we do have user-generated items
and people can just tag it.
That people can just tag their items. We sent out a survey about a year ago and have been trying to get some of that slated into our releases as we've had time to address them. And one of the biggest things that we've had to work on is just some performance around search, right? If search is slow, it slows down the whole site, and as far as when you're browsing for items and things like that, and also slow performance makes it harder for us to update items in our indexes and things like that. So this is something that we've been looking at. We're getting close to having some changes for people.
People want to know if it's going to be Monday or Tuesday. Nail you to the Monday.
Yeah.
No.
And we're probably looking at something next year.
But so do you? This is what people sometimes I think wonder. Do you actually? How do you make sure that people just don't tag stuff completely incorrectly to try to kind of game the system and come up when somebody searches for something completely different?
So that's what our flagging system is for, and so it's really it's a community policed model where if people alert us to problems, we will totally address them. We have a really great support team who goes through all of the support cases and tries to resolve any issues that come up. Obviously, if there are bugs, support can let us know about them directly. Some of them come in through our bug reporting system, Jira, but that's the model that we've set up at this point. And
why is there no mobile app for Marketplace? People are shopaholics. They would buy so much more.
I know.
If I have on this smartphone things, I could go to Marketplace, I send it to myself, then I go home, and then I have all these items.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I think people might be a little upset if we didn't fix things like search before we went onto a mobile device. And so we're trying to focus on some of the things that need major improvements before we move towards significant feature changes.
And there's a lot of talk about the next generation virtual world. We must not mention the project name, but are you working with that team too a little bit, or are you completely focused on Second Life Marketplace? Or is the new virtual world team coming to you and say, hey, can you give us pointers, where can we go with the commerce aspect in this new world?
So we are working very closely with the other people who are working on to take the lessons that we have from Second Life Commerce and Second Life Marketplace and bring them through to our next generation product.
That's very diplomatic. I want to know more. I'm probing. I need to know about this. But here it is on the screen as a next generation virtual world. While I was talking to Brooke, there was Ebbe standing behind me in the basement where meetings are held. Of course, meetings are held in the basement because that's where they all live. And he played a female character in a kind of a Conan the Barbarian type of fantasy environment, steering this avatar around.
This was in Second Life 2.
Yes. It's a complete blank canvas that you can fill with, just like Second Life, but just quicker and a lot better with any type of visual aesthetic that you like. Cartoonish, realistic, whatever you like. Next to Ebbe stood a man named Jeff, whose real name is, of course, not Jeff. It's Bagman Linden, Vice President of Engineering at Linden Lab since 2011. And now he's focusing solely on this new virtual world. I taped an interview with Bagman where Ebbe jumped in at some point as well, talking about this new next generation virtual world. But since there were so many, too many, in fact, beans spilled in that conversation, it is by request from Linden Lab that we had to pull this interview segment.
Aww.
Yeah, I'm really, really sorry. I do hope we can play it soon or even expand and maybe do a special hour with Bagman live maybe and have people ask questions. I hope listeners understand that there's a lot of competition, as we had discussed. It's a cutthroat business, and I certainly understand that this is out of necessity to keep a lot of that stuff quiet.
Yeah, but it's a shame. But I listened to it. It was a very exciting bit of, interviewing.
Yeah. Right.
Wasn't it great, Drax? Wasn't it a great interview?
Oh, it was the greatest. No, but quite seriously, as you heard in this interview also that they're moving along, but people always think this is tomorrow and what am I gonna do? My business will be dead next week because SL 2.0 will arrive, and that's baloney. They're moving ahead, but it's so far out until this is really operational and ready to have actual residents come in.
Yeah, they're not going to open it up for testing till the middle of next year.
So the fact that we can't play this audio means that we only have one more segment to play featuring Lindens from my visit over there. And those Lindens are Shaman and Kona. They're both working in the QA division. And here is that audio.
I'm Shaman Linden.
And what do you do here?
I do quality assurance for land ops, mainly the LDPW projects.
Residents will, when they could see this, they would go nuts because there's an SL sticker on a laptop. There's a Rubik's Cube with the SL logo on it, and there's an FIC cup. I have to ask Ebbe this. I think you guys need to put out merchandise.
Yeah.
I think residents would go nuts.
Yeah,
Don't you think?
I would think so. Especially like just the little Second Life pendants and
exactly.
stuff.
They're not available anywhere.
Yeah.
I've heard people talk about, if I had, I would buy like 10 of them.
Yeah, I've heard that too. That would be a question for Ebbe. Yes.
So, describe where we are right now.
Oh, right now we're in
the basement?
The basement of the lab, yeah.
Second Lifers like to live in the basement,
yes,
right?
Yes. Mainly QA and engineering going on down here.
Intermingled some of the new virtual world. We can't mention the name and some of the existing virtual world.
Yeah.
So who's this guy over here?
Oh, that's Kona.
who are you? Introduce yourself on the record, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kona Linden. I'm one of the senior QA engineers.
And you have an FIC cup.
Oh, yes.
And what else FIC do you have?
Oh, I used to have all the magnets. We used to have the magnets on the lamps that we had since moved. Oh, there goes my FIC.
Oh, my God.
Magnets and stuff. There we go. All that love. So much love. Hyper coffee.
She doesn't listen to the podcast. I'm just a mouthpiece of the regime.
Oh, the regime. Is that's what we're called now, the regime.
I'm calling it like that as a mouthpiece.
That's okay.
A mouthpiece can call the regime whatever the mouthpiece wants to call the regime.
Exactly. So how's your trip so far?
Very good. I came to San Francisco to talk about Second Life to people who run Second Life. That is very strange to me.
Yeah, well,
why am I telling you guys something about the thing that you're creating and running? I mean, you're not creating, but you're running the world.
But it's a different time. You're also reporting from a different perspective now, because many of the folks who were so passionate about Second Life, many of them became Lindens, and many of them got married. I've been to several of their weddings. Now they've made little Lindens, and we have reunions, and they come back, and even though they're no longer working with Linden Lab, we still have reunions and gatherings, Linden Lab gathering, former employees and what have you.
As a new Linden,
How new are you?
I'm celebrating my second rest day, October 29th.
I just celebrated my 10th year, so different generations.
And so for me, it's very inspiring, because like, some of the stories Kona has told me, and also meeting up with some of these Lindens, the old Lindens at, the pub and stuff like that, it's an awe-inspiring experience. And that's why I wanted to, thank you for, your videos, because that's, part of that, like carrying on that tradition, something that we would like to see, kind of, keep moving forward through SL and beyond.
I don't have to explain myself as much. Well, basically, because we're also in the San Francisco Bay Area, Silicon Valley.
Yes.
Everyone has heard of Second Life, or who are at least in the industry have heard of Second Life.
But that was great that you bring this up, because do you think that Second Life, is there a reputation of Second Life, or is there or what is the reputation of Second Life within the tech industry here in this town?
For years, people would always say, oh, they're going to be gone in 2 years, gone in 5 years. 10 years later, they're like, oh, they're still around. Oh, yeah, they're still, And now that, kids nowadays, the millennials, this is typical. Yeah, they expect this, where they have no idea how especially those who've been with us since beta and even earlier, remember how not complicated it was. But one of the things I think you were commenting earlier during our lunch hour was about the communities and how they've grown. But the first generation, as primitive as it looks compared to what Second Life is now, it didn't stop people from meeting. It didn't stop people from creating community. It didn't stop people from exploring possibilities. People in other states where broadband wasn't available, so to speak, and there were people there. I remember early residents who didn't even know how to do their own email, but it was important for them. They knew how to log on, and they had friends, and they had community. That was the key thing. The technology, everything came afterwards, and just let's do this and let's do that.
Community, there you go. That was Kona, Shaman, and Caleb was there too, but he didn't say anything. But I just want to mention, Caleb turns out to be from the Munich neighborhood called Pasing, where the Drax family has lived for many generations. Complete crazy coincidence. He went to a high school 1 mile from where I went to high school. So Caleb Linden, also really nice QA guy at Linden Lab, in world all day long, and getting paid for standing in the corner rezzing prims. It's just...
I want that job.
So that's the end of the show. Joe, anything that you're doing this weekend? Anything worthwhile mentioning?
Well, I'm going to visit, Babbage again, New Babbage, which is a lovely sort of steampunk Victorian sort of city, which is one of the most impressive sims in Second Life, because they're working on something called the Pierhead Indoor Market, and that looks really, really interesting. I've seen a few pictures on the really great Second Life is Looking Good Flickr group. And that looked really exciting. And that's what I sometimes do. I just go through that group, see pictures that I really like, and check them out.
Wow, almost like a good journalist could potentially do, theoretically, right?
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Journalists doing research, that's just crazy talk.
Well, I want to bring folks' attention to the new Drax Files video, which is out just today. It's about live theater in Second Life. It's really amazing stuff. Live theater going on since 2008. Run by a charter member, Madame Thespian Underhill, who's been on this show before. She's profiled. And also Thinker Melville is in this piece. Very briefly, though, I'm going to do another bigger one on him. He's 85 years old, and he said a lot of things that are unfortunately on the cutting room floor, but they're just awesome. I asked him, hey, what's up with the digital divide between generations? Older folks getting left behind. He says, what digital divide between generations? I don't have a problem with the Second Life UI or anything else. So it's really, really inspiring story. There's, of course, more that we forget. Please comment. We have article just came out that I read. I want to just briefly mention that. about virtual reality journalism from the Columbia Journalism Review. That is actually a really good place to go if you want real good journalism. Of course, the writer does not mention Second Life, so maybe it's not that good. Although Noni de la Peña is profiled in the article, and of course we know Noni. She was on show number 24 on this very podcast, and she also created Virtual Guantanamo way back when. So come on, Columbia Journalism Review. One more mistake like that, and you can move on to moviepilot.com.
That's a low blow.
Yeah. You go from Columbia to Movie Pilot in one article. All right, that's it for the show. Have a great weekend, Joe. Goodbye.
Auf Wiedersehen.
The Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley is a weekly production of Basic Drax Entertainment. The show supported by Leap Motion, SL Go By On Live, Stitcher, Bot Girls Identity Circus, Carvel Design, Vika Creations, Humanoid Animations, Escapades, Botanical, Death Row Designs, Angel Red Couture, Fallen Gods Incorporated, Blue Moon Enterprises, What's Next, Avacon, and Landscapes Unlimited. Contact the show via Skype, Drax Files, Avatar Drax Files, or email radio@draxfiles.com.